Hey everyone, and welcome to Shine For Me Insights Community Podcast with me, Jennifer Collington, your host. Today I really wanted to do my self-love and self-care episode, but we're gonna do self-empowerment and self-confidence because honestly, they're important. They go hand in hand with my last videos, but the reason why I'm doing this one first is because it matters for your next steps, really truly to love yourself is some of the bravest acts that you're going to take. And so when we think about self-empowerment, a lot of the time it is about allowing ourselves to love ourselves, to go after what we want. And part of that comes from our confidence. So really, we don't empower ourselves to move forward if we don't have the self-confidence to do so. So what that means, if we were to look at the definitions of them, really, self-confidence equals a firm trust in yourself, a feeling of self-reliance, certainty in self-abilities, and helps us be bold, helps us to have faith in ourselves and move with conviction. It's our secret weapon, and that one that makes us fearless, secure, and positive. So self-empowerment, on the other hand, is to give power to make able, to authorize, and make license for the process of becoming stronger. So we think of self-confidence as our backing, like what helps us stand firm. And then we think of the empowerment is then the approval to go forward. So when we have the backing behind something, we will empower ourselves. So we will give ourselves the approval to go forward. If we do not feel confident in ourselves in certain ways, we will never empower ourselves to go forward to it, which is why I'm talking about this before love, because in order for you to feel like you deserve the best, sometimes that means you got to walk away from whatever that isn't. And trusting yourself sometimes long before it's evident of why it's not good for you is going to be important. And you need to have confidence in yourself to trust why these things are coming up, why this lesson matters. Because at the end of the day, you cannot empower yourself towards your goals and towards the things best for you. And if we want to create a new world, you definitely can't empower yourself towards creating a new world if you're not willing to see where you stand and to see why you stand there, and to know that you can trust in yourself to stand for whatever matters, because you know that it's more important than anything that's going to come up for you. Okay, so this episode is really important to me because my whole life as a child, self-confidence was one of the things that I did not have the most. Even though to most people I would seem confident, there is an assertiveness about me that I've always had. And a lot of the time when I feel even less confident, it is when I'm more assertive that you wouldn't even know, because it is a mask I wear to get through it. That mask, even though I don't like to wear a mask, it has helped me gain confidence to know I can handle stuff. So now I do empower myself, not because I need to wear the mask. I actually can take the mask off now. I know I can do this stuff because I've done stuff scared. I've done stuff not knowing I can do it. So now that I know I can, I definitely don't need that step, right? I just can do it now. So I empower myself through everything that I do because I've built up such a good awareness of myself that even if I don't have that skill right now, I can guarantee I will get it down. I can guarantee that I only need usually only once to learn it, but sometimes if it's a hard lesson, maybe once or twice, But there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with it taking me a moment to learn how to have that happen, how to make that better, how for that to improve on my empowerment in the future, because everything that I do at that point, I am trying to help back myself up for the future. And in the point of knowing this about others as well, it helps you to know that if somebody is lacking self-confidence, that is something that we can help them build, because this is something where we can remind them of stuff that maybe they've forgotten, or maybe they aren't seeing, like a butterfly that can't see its wings. Some people cannot see how beautiful and amazing they are. And so when they are around people who can show them or elevate them to that, then they can then gain that confidence, and then they can empower themselves. I call myself an empowerment buddy because as a friend to anybody, I know that I cannot force you to do anything, but I can encourage you. So when I'm your buddy, I can't make you do it. I can't empower you, but I can help build you up enough that you will empower yourself. And that's what we do is others have to choose to be self-empowered, but I am definitely going to be the friend that's always going to help you to get to that point, because I want you to be self-empowered. People who don't want you to be self-empowered are people that don't want your own sovereignty, people that don't want you to be able to make your own decisions or take your own chances or to know who you are and go against the grain. People who don't want to empower you in this way are people that necessarily are not maybe good for you. A lot of them are people that are indefinitely trying to trap you in something. Most of the people that want to empower you are always going to want the best for you. They're going to want you to grow and thrive. And sometimes it's going to be uncomfortable. But for the most part, it's always going to be from a place of love and knowing that you deserve this. Okay? So sometimes, even if we can't change something for people, telling them the truth of who they are will be enough. But also, if you just help them be in the right environment, sometimes you can't do it, but just by being in an environment that isn't toxic, by being in an environment that doesn't make it harder, by being around people or being in an area that is more conducive to the person they want to become, they will feel empowered enough. A lot of the time, people fail not because they don't have the right resources, but because the environment themselves actually goes against, it thwarts all of their attempts. Meanwhile, they're blaming themselves, but it's really hard to, let's use a metaphor. If you don't want to get dirty and you live in a mud pit, you're going to continuously have to wonder why you're getting mud on yourself. And the part is you can't be mad at yourself that you're getting mud when you live there. You're going to have mud on you. You know, if you don't want that and you don't want that on your clothes, you're going to have to not be where you're going to get it on your clothes. And that's our energy, that's in our mind, that's in our heart, that's in our foods, that's in everything. If we don't want certain things, some of the time we can change it ourselves in that environment. Other times we have to change the environment itself. And sometimes that environment is ourself. If we don't have the self-confidence, we don't have the inner environment needed for us to empower ourselves externally. So self-confidence is your inner networking that helps you to build external structures so that you not only now can do something externally, you have this reinforcement inside you that helps make it stronger because of this foundation that you've set up. I don't just think that I can do these things because I can do stuff. I know I can do this stuff because I've done this, and this. I've learned this, and all of this sets up this nice, I don't know what they call it in, I think it's scaffolding in construction, but most of it is a ladder. It's all building you upwards, right? There's a point to it, and all of that is helping build a stable foundation. So really, it all starts with your self-confidence, because once you have that intact, we then can bolster you to using your self-empowerment, right? So these things may seem small, but really they're not, because in reality, without them, if we don't have self-confidence, well, we might believe what everybody else tells us about ourselves, right? And knowing that sometimes people don't have a clear representation of us and have been programmed by society that largely wants to make us feel terrible and not love ourselves, what they tell you might not be true. And so we're gonna say who you are, what you're like, what you're not good at, what you are good at, and some of those things largely not gonna be true. Some of them might be. But even for yourself, a large part of what you believe about yourself has come from these predetermined limits that people have set on you about what you're good at or what you're qualified at, you know? And so if you don't have self-confidence, you don't know the difference about that. And so you're going to fail to trust yourself, which means you're going to have larger trust issues in the future as well. But you're also going to steal away your joy, positiveness, because you're not moving in ways that feel true for you then. You're moving in whatever ways you're being told to because you don't trust yourself to do it yourself. You just think this is how I am, so I have to do it this way. And so you're also going to you're going to do a lot of stuff out of fear or of trying to avoid a negative repercussion. this also leaves you vulnerable. So when we are at this point, we do not have the backing up to protect ourselves either. So here you're going to have a lot more loopholes in the brain to be like negative thought patterns. Rumination is what we call it as well. But there's also going to be a lot of self-criticism. You're always constantly going to be berating yourself because you don't have confidence that is talking about backing yourself up when about these other things. Like instead of being like, no, my friend's not that way, you're going to be like, yeah, guess my friend is that way, and that's how you need to talk about yourself. Not just as your friend, but I talk about myself like, yeah, my kid, like my baby. That's how I really stop my negative self-talk, is to think about myself like I'm a baby, because I wouldn't. It might not help other people who don't care about babies, but to me it was like, I cannot. Little baby animals, little things like that, I wouldn't. I talk to inanimate things all the time, and they still deserve my respect, so do I. Right? But anyway, the point being is if you don't have that backing up, then you're just going to accept whatever that negative voice is saying, rather than be like, no, I actually know this about myself, so that's a lie. So when you have self-confidence, you can also negate these things. You can hear these negative things come up and be like, actually, not true about me, psych, and swerve that negative thought. When you don't have it, you get hit by it. And before you know it, you're taken out, right? Because all of these things, it leads to persistent feelings of sadness, depression, anxiety, anger, guilt, shame, creates issues with your work, your school, your family, your friends, your romantic life. You have issues or take criticism. You take disapproval harder. There's a withdrawal from others, avoiding anything you may be judged for or measured against. It keeps you in your comfort zone, prevents you from making change. It keeps you in bad or unhealthy jobs, and same with bonds and environments. So yeah, there you go. Punch, 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 right? There's a lot of negative stuff that if you don't have self-confidence as I don't want to call it your armor, because it's technically not like that, but it does make you invincible. These things can't hit you. They can't touch you if you're aware of who you are. If you have this self-confidence in yourself, right now in the world, so many people could be claiming one thing. And meanwhile, we now know a lot of it is farce, right? So at the same time, if you know what you believe in, it doesn't really matter what they say anymore, because you're not crazy. You're doing the best for yourself and you love yourself. You know that everything you're doing is actually more accurate than what's out there, because they actively are trying to not allow you to grow and become a better human being. So the thing about it is that it's really important for us to actually have self-confidence, because it isn't a self-awareness of who we are. It's taking inventory of ourselves, and it's having this trust to know, if this isn't me, I'm not doing that. And if this is me, if this is what I stand for, ain't nothing gonna stop me from that. And that's where we move into the empowerment role, right? Because now that I have this backing, ain't nothing stopping me from moving forward. And that's where we get that approval to be like, here's my ticket. I co-signed this. If I'm the director, my self-confidence is the leader of that board, she's writing that letter and being like, here you go, because she knows this is what we're here for and this is what we're doing. And that's the backing yourself up right there, right? So when you get that approval, it's really important. It helps you move. Without that approval, what do we get? Well, let's look at the lack of without that now, shall we? And so it means you're easier to control. You don't have any control of yourself because, well, I don't feel empowered to do anything. I'm helpless. So guess what? Depression comes from a helplessness, a state of prolonged helplessness. So guess what? You probably are as well. Depressed too. So, and part of the reasons you don't let others make, or you let others make your decisions, and most of the time they're making decisions for them. They don't care. They're not caring about you. So even when you're doing something for others, largely, it's never going to be directly back at yourself. So you're giving to an endless void. So when you're pouring out to make others happy, meanwhile you're diminishing what makes you happy, you are pouring to a black void, and it will not make you feel better. That is draining your energy. That's what we talked about in the last episode of your inner power, and why it's so important to watch where you're leaking that out. And that's part of it. Letting others decide for you, especially when it's not for you, especially when it goes against what you're about. Anyway, So lack of confidence in self to be able to do things or stand up for things. So that's you not knowing who you are. So you're not going to do anything about it because you don't know you can. Meanwhile, you're probably an expert at it if you actually let yourself, right? But you haven't taken the time to find out. You haven't taken that inventory to be like, oh, I got that in check. I have actually a large stock of that. You know, you don't know because you've been listening to everybody being like, sold out. We're not checking in the back. Meanwhile, you got to go check in your own back. Nobody else has actually been in your store to know what you have there. You have to go find out for yourself. So anyways, unable to make your own judgments, and you side with others' perspectives or opinions, and you disengage from life, from self. You go on autopilot. You're easy to be manipulated or even abused, which is largely why they do not want you to have self-confidence, because once you have that backing, you do not let yourself be treated that way, which is why society does not get to function in a dysfunctional way if we have people who are full of self-confidence and self-empowerment, because they will rise up and be like, absolutely not. And guess what's been happening? And guess why they've been having so many little things break out and different things happen to make us sick or fight with each other? Because we're getting more aware, and that's what we're doing now. We're more aware now so that you can empower yourself, and by you empowering yourself, we can empower the world to be better. Okay, so we're not going to be manipulated anymore, right? We're not going to struggle finding joy in life anymore, because if you're not self-empowered, you don't have self-confidence, you ain't getting any joy. You probably feel real terrible about yourself, you know? And we don't have to feel that way when we actually start making decisions that align with us. So we lack fulfillment and security. We're ruled by fear and have a lack of vision for our life. It breeds helplessness. It's one of the biggest debilitations. Helplessness is one of the biggest debilitations. If you look at anything to do with psychology, mental health, the moment that you feel helpless is when you get stuck. And they want us to feel that way. Why do you think they've released so much information about so many systems? Because it's all a bombardment to make us feel stuck. We can't do anything. We don't have anything. And all of it's a sham. So we're all helpless now. It's all like, what are we going to do? We have access to everything. We are totally fine. We are not helpless whatsoever. If anything, we are never been in a better position to not be helpless, because we actually have all the tools we need to communicate, to get together, and to change this now. So it actually... we're totally fine. Don't believe them. They're doing that on purpose if you feel that way. So anyways, they want us to feel this shame, so that if we feel shamed, we do not ever feel right, which means we do not ever have that self-confidence, which means we do not ever empower ourselves to go for better, to strive for better. We deserve better. We have an innate worthiness just because we are here. Mark my words, you do not need to be anybody or anything in order to be loved and deserving of this. They put that shame on you, and that your worth is tied to some outside value, when in reality, the only value you need to have is your soul here, okay? And by us all acting in accordance with our higher dimensional timeline and soul essence, we would live it on a utopia. And they don't want that, because there are other outside forces that thrive on our energy by sucking us dry. And the easier way for them to do that is by keeping us in a low frequency, which is negative emotions. Shame and guilt on that scale are the lowest vibrations we can be in, which is why they want us in it, because authenticity and love are the highest dimensions. So when you are aware of yourself, you love yourself, and there is complete truth and authenticity in who you are, there is nothing that can stop you. Okay, but when you are controlled by shame and guilt, and you are helpless in that state, there is very, very, very few things that are more debilitating than that, because those are the lowest areas that you can be in. And largely our world has been controlled because we've allowed people to sit in those emotions on purpose, because they allow them to keep their reins on what this realm is, okay? But no more. When you have self-empowerment, it means you make the conscious decision to take charge of your decisions and your destiny, which involves maxing out on potential positive opportunities. It also means making positive changes, being confident in abilities to execute decisions and understand your strengths and weaknesses, and then are motivated to learn and achieve more stuff. When you have your self-confidence, it means you can trust and accept yourself, that you have a sense of control in your life, that you know your strengths and weaknesses, that you have a positive view of self, that you can set realistic expectations and goals and communicate assertively, that you can handle criticism, and that we can feel ready for life experiences and go towards opportunity, and we can move in authenticity. All right? These are all things they do not want us to move in, because it would literally erode, corrupt, everything would fall away from that corrupt system. It would erode that corrupt system immediately. They only get to thrive because we've allowed it. And it's not because we've allowed it like, yeah, I'm okay with it. We've allowed it because they've programmed our brain so much to not even know. So here, this is all a deprogramming, and why these things are so important and why they've always been important, okay? Okay, so now that we know why those things are important, the best thing that we can do now is bolster your self-confidence. And why that is, I have a quote that I love. Because instead of attending a self-bashing party, we're going to shut it down and throw a self-celebration party. Because the whole point here is for us to truly acknowledge who we are and celebrate that, okay? Even when, back in the past, I was called talkative, loud, opinionated, it was always such it meant to penalize me, meant to be a punishment. And now it's honestly, thank you, such a compliment, because I am. In a world where some people don't speak up, I feel privileged to speak, to feel that I can speak. In a world that many people are trying to take away some people's right to speak, I feel privileged to know that I'm allowed, that it is my right, as it is all of ours. But I also feel privileged enough that I've had such an education and have these communicative skills that I'm able to, right? Not everybody can. And I know I don't speak the most eloquently. I know I'm not the most proper. I'm not supposed to be. I'm real. I'm authentic. I learn these things and I talk like the real people that are out here because I'm for you all, okay? So I don't judge me, but if anybody else wants to, you're free to attend that party if you want. I'm not attending that party because I'm at a self-celebration party. And I love how talkative I am. I love how opinionated I am. Just like that other video where I was talking about how being stubborn. I love that I'm stubborn because I stay up for what matters, but I also evolve. If I think I'm wrong about something, I am quick to say I'm sorry. I am quick to change my opinion. I am quick to adapt. The point is that I'm not going to do that unless there is a reason to. I'm not easily to be swayed because there's not everything needs to be changed. Point being, that's me trusting in myself, which our step is, that's the next step. So these are the core concepts of self-confidence, okay? And first one, self-trust. You need to have this trust in yourself that there ain't nothing anybody can do to disrupt that. Because even if they tell you a fact on yourself, you still need to know that you wrote the book on those facts. You know exactly what's in that book, even if they're the negative. I know that. I'm self-aware, and I trust myself and know my shortcomings, my weaknesses, just as much as I know my successes and my victories and my triumphs, okay? I know where I fall in each of those, and I trust myself to know the difference, because knowing that's actually how, when something comes up that I'm not the best at, I deserve even more compassion for myself. This is going to be a challenge, but I'm up for it. But when it's something I'm good at, I deserve to know that I'm going to rock this shit because I know myself, right? So part of it is you need to know that that's your foundation for your confidence, is to trust in you, okay? And it's that you can rely on yourself. No matter what, anything that we've been put in, we've made it out. We're here. Like, you can obviously believe in yourself and rely on yourself. You can obviously make sound decisions, even if some of them don't go the way that you plan. That's not life. Life is not a controllable state to the point where you're going to be able to control all of it. What you want to get good at is knowing how you're going to navigate that. And when you know that you can navigate all challenges, anything that comes up swiftly, regardless, it can all grow. That self-confidence can grow. And the more you show up for yourself, the more that you when something doesn't seem right, or when you need to speak up, or when this needs to happen, or when you step up to the challenge, the more you are every time. Here's your hand, and you're taking your own hand, and you're being like, I got you. And you're building that bond, and that bond, that one doesn't get severed. That is one that you will have forever. The longer that you not stifle that, the longer that you nourish that, it strengthens that bond, and it becomes so rooted that eventually you don't have to worry about that having a problem, right? So even if you're trying a new skill, right? So me with public speaking, right? It can be intimidating, but each time you practice, every little step you go through, like one time, so I used to have really bad social anxiety. My first step for me to get over that was to go to pool. So go to the public pool. And part of being there is because I had a lot of shame around my body, right? But you're there and there's a bunch of people and everybody looks however they look. And we're all there just to swim. So in the beginning, I wore a lot of different suits that, just more covered my body. And then slowly it was about suits that I liked, suits I enjoyed, suits I felt good in. And it didn't so much matter what other people thought or cared about. It was just about me enjoying my time. And I trusted myself because the more I went there, the more that I knew I was safe and I could handle it. Even if whatever, I'd just leave if I felt like I was, feeling some kind of way. But the point is that each time you follow up, you're building trust and your ability to improve or for the situation to slowly not feel as horrible. So me in public speaking, still very weird, but at the same time, feels a lot better to speak what I need to speak versus feeling like, I can't, I can't do it. Just like going to the pool. Feels a lot better to know I can go to the pool, regardless of how I look, I feel good about it. Versus like, oh no, I can't. I don't deserve to go. My body doesn't look right. Like, well, who bodies look right? Now we know that everything's fake. Like, fuck. You know what I mean? Anyway, number 2 on this list after self-trust is going to be growth mindset. Growth mindset, incredibly important. Why? I talked about it in another video about, I do believe in both my prior videos. Neuroplasticity, a real thing. Your brain constantly, big ball of clay. It can be molded at any stage of your life. The further you go through life, the harder your clay does get. The water in your body goes a little off, right? So you become a little bit harder. So more calcified, more crystallized. So even though your clay does get a little bit hardened, you can still sculpt it. Okay? It just takes a lot more work. So what I mean by this is a growth mindset is one that can adapt, one that can grow. There's always constantly books can be added to it, skills can be added to it, experiences. And always as it changes, it evolves. So it's like an organism. It's constantly updating and growing and evolving for whatever's happening in and around it, okay? A fixed mindset is a closed system. So a fixed mindset is the opposite of what we want to have. And this is where pretty much whatever's in it is in it. It just is what it is. So instead of your brain being a ball of clay, the fixed mindset would have you believe that you're more like a door. Like you're just a door. That's all you is. That's all you're going to be. You are a door. You have this fixed label on you and it doesn't get changed. And so a growth mindset versus a fixed mindset, well, the fixed mindset is telling you this is how you are. This is how you're always going to be. This is the information you know. These are skills you know. This is what you're good at. There's no point in you learning or adapting or changing because there's really not too much you can do about it. This is who you are. A growth mindset is I don't know who I am, but I have these few ideas, these few experiences, and these things kind of feel good, and I'm going to kind of build off of those, and I'm going to see. Guess what? I'm going to expand. I'm going to grow because I know that I can. I know that I can update and move along, and all these things happening are only building up my mind rather than anything else. So like a tree, I'm continuously growing. As a door, I'm a cut down tree, and I already have my purpose fulfilled by being that door. A tree, you're continuously growing. In each different stage that you're growing in, you have a different kind of purpose in that stage, okay? So a growth mindset is the belief that abilities can develop through effort and learning. This mindset encourages you to see challenges as opportunities rather than threats, which is essential for building self-confidence. When we have a fixed mindset, if it challenges who we are, we immediately shut down. I can't do this. That's not for me. I'm not like this. I don't do that stuff. And the problem is a lot of these fixed mindsets were developed by Families, societies, things that did not want you applying yourself, that did not want you to push yourself, that did not want you to be better than them. Because they didn't, for one, it's selfish. A lot of them didn't want you to do better than them. But some of them did not want to see you better, but also did not know you could be better. They did not know how to teach you anything else. This is what they thought. They're the door, right? So you're a door too. But the point is that none of us are doors. We never should have been taught these certain ways, and we should have always been educating people that they can go further than them. So through every time that we learn and put effort in, we can grow and evolve. Our brain can adapt. We can make new connections all the time, which means we as a society should be in a constant state of evolution, which means our systems shouldn't really be systems. They should be organisms, because organisms adapt to live within the people as well. So you need to have that same mindset for yourself. It's not it's not something that stays. It's not something that is just a system that's closed and it's just that way. Your mind should be an organism that grows with you and allows you to continuously change and evolve as you evolve and learn. And so just because there is maybe a hurdle, it doesn't mean you're a failure. It means, how can I bucker down and try harder and succeed at this? And knowing, because having that self-trust in yourself, right? That first step is knowing that when you are presented a challenge in the past, you have always stepped up and achieved it. Okay? Even if it's not to the level you want, then the next time you're faced with that challenge, you will step up even more to it. Okay? The point is that you're going to constantly be doing that, which is what a growth mindset is doing. Constantly, the trajectory is moving upwards. Okay? So, yeah, that's a really important one, because for me, when I was really a perfectionist back in the past and really hard on myself, where before I started my healing journey, a lot of what I used to say is, that's just how I am. You know, and no, that's just how I learned to be. And guess what? With a growth mindset, I can learn how to be a different way. Okay, if you've ever watched plants grow, if you block off one root, they don't just die. They find a different way. Allow yourself to find a different way. That's the growth mindset, okay? And the self-confidence comes in knowing that you can trust yourself to find that way. Okay, and that you're always able to adapt, so you're never even at your final line, which means you're always constantly improving. So feel good about that, right? Positive self-image is the next one. Part of why you should feel good about that. Your positive self-image is important because, honestly, even if you aren't the best at everything, who's really judging the best, by the way? The point is that it doesn't even matter. A lot of people are like, oh, I can't dance good. Dancing is about how you feel. You don't actually need to be the best at it to be a good dancer or to enjoy dancing. Just like music or singing, you don't need to be the best to enjoy it and to have a good time. Positive self-image is more about how you're perceiving yourself, right? And so if you're always constantly seeing yourself in a line of like, I'm not good enough to do these things, it doesn't feel very good. But when you tell yourself that I'm allowed to do these things because they make me feel good, right? It does help impact your confidence to know that regardless of who you are or what you're at or other people's judgments of you, you're allowed to be you. You know, you're allowed to own yourself in these things that you like. But it helps you when you know also this positive self-image is also just an awareness of yourself. So when you have this awareness of yourself, you can give yourself kudos in ways that you wouldn't if you weren't paying attention. So for me, when I come to something I'm really not good at, right? When I'm super emotional and somebody attacks my character, past me would have freaked the heck out about that, you know? Now me kind of just sits back and wonders immediately what's going on with this person, because I know who I am. So I know that usually attacking me like that, weird. Usually it's not factual. But even if it is, like, I feel bad, but what's going on for you still? Because usually if I'm doing something like that, it shouldn't make you react that way unless you're in a certain place as well to take it a certain way, right? But part of that positive self-image is not immediately somebody mad at me and me being like, I'm terrible. It's about being like, I'm not really good in these moments when it does come to these kind of conversations. So maybe I didn't handle it the best and I need to work on this, and this person's trying to work on that with me. It's not immediately tear it down at myself. It's about being aware that this is something that I am not as perfect in, that I do need to be more gentle with others and myself while I'm talking about, right? But also knowing that, you know what, I'm very empathetic. I am very good at listening. So I know I can listen and hear this out with this person, and I can talk to them about it. Even though emotions and heartfelt things are a little bit more harder for me to get out and to deal with, I know that I can still do that because I have all these other components, right? So, it's amazing to know that when you don't think that you can do something, if you actually look at all these little strengths you have, they can add up to meaning a lot more in a certain situation. Maybe I can't do public speaking when I think about it in its terms, but I can speak, and I do like to be out and talk to new people, and I do like to deliver messages that are really important, and I don't mind if a bunch of people hear that. So can I do public speaking? Yeah, I guess I can, but when it looks differently in a different frame of mind. And that's because I have a positive self-image enough to know that I have all these skills that embody that already, even if the actual thought of what it is scares me. I know that I have all these components that make it up and that it's going to be okay regardless. So it's also important with the positive self-image to not always be looking at where the flaws are, right? It's important to be acknowledging where the goodness is that you have. That, for me, it's about always reminding yourself that you do have these qualities, about that where you can do this, and that, even when something bad happens now, and when I say bad, I just mean when something goes away that I'm not planning, if I'm late for the day or something like that, I always am I'm grateful for why this delay is happening, because obviously for me, because I know me, it means that something good is going to happen for me. It means I'm being delayed because I'm supposed to see something. So even my setbacks, even when I'm paused, delayed, even when a plan is put off for another day, anything like that, to me, it's always a divine kind of restructuring. There's always something beautiful behind it. It's never me and my day sucks, or this person or that person. It's something magical is afoot here, and that's also positive self-talk, because the moment stuff's always going to happen in life. And if you're immediately going to be see, this again is why life shit. This again confirms I'm terrible. You're always going to have something come up to do that then. For me, the positive self-image is also just remembering that good things are happening to you all the time. And sometimes they don't happen unless some weird stuff happens to create an opportunity for a miracle or a blessing, right? So positive self-image is also just knowing you are amazing as you are, and things are always happening for you to help you and to move you in that direction. And so it's important for you to perceive yourself as somebody that is happening for, because the moment you are in those states of helplessness and life is always happening for me and I don't have any control, that's again disempowering, no self-confidence, and it is defeating the point of that positive self-image, because that is a negative self-image, to believe that terrible shit is always happening to you and that you don't deserve good stuff and that here's another blowback instead of here's another opportunity, and I'm gonna rise up. So anyways, reinforce the aspects of your identity to help build your confidence is one of the most important things you do. The next thing, setting small and achievable goals. Why this is because this, again, goes back to that self-trust. Anytime you complete one of these goals, anytime you follow through with something, you are confirming to yourself, I am empowering you. I am taking your hand and agreeing to you. I am backing you up. I am standing with you. I choose you. And guess what? Your self loves that. Also, for your self-confidence, the more things that you achieve, which is why if you're really scared of something, exposure therapy works. Because that's what I did with the pool, right? These little incremental doses are proving to you that you can do it. And so you slowly work up to something bigger and bigger until you achieve what's ultimately your scariest thing. So setting small achievable goals helps you because not only is it working you towards your direction that you want to go, but you're building up this self-trust in yourself and helping build all of these muscles and skills up. I say muscles, but it's like your brain, right? You're bolstering your brain to show it, hey, I am capable. Hey, I have these new skills. Hey, when a new challenge arises, I get to do it. So then in the future, when a new challenge arises, hey, guess what? I faced new challenges and I did good. I can do these. So every time you complete one of these, it boosts your confidence already. So this is more backing for who you are, right? Which again, that is all part of the positive self. This now gives you that positive self-image. This gives you the growth mindset. This gives you the self-trust. So all of these things, they work in harmony together when you apply them, right? And these goals are a way to build it immediately, right? So some of the first things like me, working up to public speaking, part of that, was doing little videos. Part of that was going to the pool. Part of that was just working on my social anxiety in general. Part of that was just starting to speak up in more conversations that made me more uncomfortable at the beginning, like politics. Anything like that, these little steps, you may think that they don't really matter, but again, on your path, on your journey, they're slowly working you up to where you need to go and getting you to complete those bigger goals that actually are the more scarier ones. But we need all these little things in our backing, right? In our stock, when we take our inventory of ourselves, to know what we have in stock. So that when we are faced with this battle in the future, we can be like, I got it all in store. I'm good. All right. So that's a really important thing, I think, personally. Each day, each week, even if you only give yourself one small goal, right? Even if it's just for you in a self-empowering way, like it can be, I just want to go sit by the water or something, right? Anything that's little and just a way to just like do it for you that feels nice, that feels aligned, that helps you in the future because of so much. You're taking that consideration for yourself. And in the end, by accomplishing it, you build the self-trust, which also does build your faith in yourself that you're going to care, that you're going to listen. And the last step is to have self-compassion. In order for you to really care and to grow and to empower yourself, you have to be compassionate with yourself. You have to know why these things matter. You have to know why you deserve this kindness and this effort. Half of the stuff, self-love, people are like, oh yeah, I went and had a bath today. That's not it. Self-love is looking at yourself in the mirror like, you can't keep doing this to me because I love you and I can't keep you abusing me like this. It's having those really hard conversations. And that's the self-confidence, is you gain self-confidence by having these conversations and loving yourself enough to know, I need to care about this, and then backing yourself up to carry it out, which is the empowerment portion, right? So, and especially because we are going to deal with setbacks. So self-compassion is incredibly important because everybody on this journey, they think they're doing so good and then a setback happens. They're like, of course, I'm back at square one. But meanwhile, anybody on the healing journey knows it's not linear. It goes all over the place. So you judging where you're at, even though it looks the same, you are nowhere near the same because you've already done all this growth and work in between. So you are not where you were, even if it feels like you've gone back. Okay? And sometimes we go back to prove to ourselves how far we've come, to show ourselves how much we're willing to stand up to this challenge and this test, to show that we can ace it. So if you even do feel you've gone back, it is a moment to show just how far you have come and to boost that self-confidence even more. You better believe when I've been put in situations that past me would be, and I'm like, can't believe I'm here. And then I'm like, but guess what? I'm an ace at dealing with this, and I get to deal with this in an amazing way that I would never done when I first came about it because I'm nowhere near where I used to be, right? So yeah, self-compassion involves treating yourself with kindness, especially when you encounter setbacks. Instead of self-criticism, self-compassion allows you to learn and move forward with supportive attitude. We are going to have things happen. That does not make you a bad person. That's life, honey. So if you're always going to take it out on yourself when something bad happens, you're going to be always feeling like shit. But if you actually have self-compassion in yourself to know that things are going to happen and it's not going to be a you problem, but how you're going to navigate that is always going to matter. And knowing that you believe in you and you got this, so you can be compassionate with yourself even while it's really hard. You know, that's where an amazing spot to be at. That's where we want to be at, because we can never remove setbacks. Just like we can never remove negative emotions. So anybody trying to be like, I want to wipe out anxiety. I'm like, well, it's a natural thing your brain is naturally going to feel, because you specifically have an amygdala that is in there, that's its only job. What you want to do is retrain it. You want to retrain it and you want to thank it, because if it's overactive like that, it means it's working good. The problem is it don't need to work so hard, and we need to teach it what it needs to react for, and not everything does it need to react that way for. And if you're not compassionate with yourself, you're going to be mean to yourself about that. And does your amygdala need that? No, it doesn't, because now you're giving it even more of those emotions like the cortisol and stuff. You're making it pump up even more. It needs to relax. So like self-compassion is incredibly important, because part of the way that we can actually move through things and surrender is by that opening up to it. And if you are not compassionate with yourself, you just get it right. You're so focused on being like shown that you're wrong, that you're not really seeing that maybe there's a reason it's not working out and you need to try a different way. You know, if you're so busy on seeing that you're damaged, you're not busy in saying like, oh yeah, I'm a problem solver and there's like 17 other ways I could do this, right? You are so capable of doing anything you put your mind to. So mistakes are going to happen, and you are going to be able to do your best through them regardless. And it means nothing about you that the mistake happened. Sometimes, yeah, it was our flub. Who cares? Point being, you still know that you can get through it. You still know that you can do this, okay? All right, so if you wanted to build your self-confidence up, and this was something that you were going to do, like practical things, like day-to-day kind of things to look out for, you could set daily commitments. One of the things I used to do is create a list at the beginning of my day, the most important things. That way, if I got sidetracked throughout my day, at least if I did these things, that's all that mattered. If my energy was zonked out by the end, because I had low iron at one point, right? So I can only do a few tasks and then I'd be done. If I was able to do those, it was a marker of success for me. And I felt really good about that. It made me have self-confidence to know that I could do what was important for me. And know that, like, I was able to trust in myself to set this plan aside and complete it, right? So then reframing setbacks is another thing you can do. So anytime something happens, like when I was late, right? When something didn't work out on my trip, must mean that something great's going to happen and I'm just supposed to take a detour. The other option is like, say somebody like, I don't know, critiques you in a way that you don't like. Instead of focusing so much on the way that they're critiquing you, focus on the way that they're trying to help build you in a skill in a different way as well. I don't like that one because I don't really like feedback, because we should always take what people say with a grain of salt. But there are some people that are speaking actual fact to you, and those nuggets are important to sop up. They're tasty delicacies that you do want that because they do help. But in the end, when we take something as criticism versus feedback, it feels differently, right? So reframing that, oh, my friend is bullying me. Oh, my friend is being vulnerable enough to share something with me because they love me and want to build this with me, right? Very important, the reframes. Then number 3 is daily affirmations, self-reflection. So very important. I've talked about it in my prior videos where you start and end the day. Those are the most powerful timing for programming. So if you're going to do affirmations for yourself, I would highly recommend when you first start your day and end your day. I used to do it at both times of the day. And now I do it whenever I feel the need. So I don't usually like end my day with them, but I do find starting my day with them and having my own morning rituals to be the best way for me to start it on my terms, so that whatever I happen throughout the day, I'm ready for it. When I have a particular stressful day or heavy day, some days, those are the days that I do more of my night affirmations, because they help me to release the burdens of that day and to feel like I'm going to get a restful sleep so I can start the next day right. But normally, I just like to say hello to the day and start it off with good intention already, okay? So that's the most important. But self-reflection, though, are very important. When I first began on my journey, and because I'm an overthinker, but even if you're an underthinker, sometimes the thing we don't really do is reflect on our day and our feelings, right? And so sometimes when I was starting to feel overly emotional throughout some parts of my day, especially when I was starting to do these new things that were challenging myself, I'd be like, well, why do you feel this way? And it would be like oversharing with people was one of them. Well, why do you feel this way? Oh, I feel vulnerable because I overshared. I'm like, well, it's natural to feel vulnerable to overshare with somebody. But guess what? It's like a really beautiful thing that you felt safe enough to share with them. And they really wanted to hear what you had to say. So if they didn't like it, they could have said something. Also, like, well, what happens if they use it against me? Well, that's their choice. You can't really know what people are going to do with the information you give to them. But you had the best of intentions by sharing it. And you only shared what came from your heart, and it's your experience. So if they really want to badmouth you about that, like, that's really going to be on them. But I love that you were honest. I love that you were brave enough to share yourself. I love how authentic you were, that you didn't hold back. And I know that made you feel a little bit vulnerable, but guess what? The best conversations usually do. And we're not used to having them, which is probably why you feel uncomfortable about that. So it's okay if you just want to sit here and feel uncomfortable for a bit, but I accept that you do. Just know that it's going to feel that way. It's natural. And so for me, self-reflection, a lot of it was really acknowledging where these emotions were coming from and what they had to do with, and like moving through that. And even some self-reflection is like, why did you have this day? What really threw you off today? And like sometimes it's thinking about what threw you off a few days ago, you know, that you're still noticing is kind of circulating your energy in your heart. And it's important to have those, because these reflections are actually how we integrate our wisdom and how we can actually speak our truth more honestly to people, because we've taken the time to really think things through. So this is how you do give yourself that self-confidence to speak up and empower yourself to do so, by taking heed of the facts and then knowing what it is to go next for them. If you don't take time to self-reflect, you don't know what to do next, technically. You're just kind of operating off the same stuff. All right, and then 4 is my favorite, celebrate small wins. I come from a mother, bless her soul. She's like such a sweet lady, but the problem is that she's been raised in a society that's like, yeah, totally share about what's negative in your life and beat down on stuff, but you better not celebrate your wins, because people would want you to think you're too full of yourself, or that you don't care about anybody else's life that's doing bad, and that's all shame, right? We've been taught that we should over talk about negativity and yet under talk positivity, because then we're bragging or it means something negative. But in reality, it's the human spectrum of emotions. You deserve to celebrate your wins, especially your small ones. The small ones are the little ones that keep you going on the day to day. Like when you take your pills, if you need to take pills day to day, if you go to the gym, you know, if you do deep breathing or meditation, those are small wins. Those little itty bitty things, you know, they are the difference between a healthy practice and an unhealthy one. A healthy lifestyle versus an unhealthy one. You know, a balanced, holistic lifestyle versus non-balanced or holistic. The small wins are important, even if they're not those things. Even the fact that you didn't yell at a stranger in traffic, or that you put your card away, or, you know, that you used your blinker, or you did the dishes for somebody, or anything. You know, you didn't yell at somebody that little thought, or that you asked somebody how they were doing, or held the door for somebody. Like, I know that even those things are just little things that we can do on the daily that are nice, but celebrating your wins, what this is more about for me, is those little goals. Like, the gym is one of those, right? But for me, so was speaking out to people at one point. right? So was me getting outside every day, right? And part of those were because I just felt like I needed them. And I celebrated those small wins because, wow, you did it. And for somebody who wasn't consistent for a long time in their life and believed that she wasn't, it was pretty amazing to see I could be very consistent, especially with stuff that I liked. For somebody who didn't think she was smart, it was very amazing to go to school and get A's and be like, oh my God, I am smart. Those small wins, they are not small. They are what that backing of that self-confidence will be in the future. So it's incredibly important for us to celebrate whenever we make a little small milestone. And sometimes, depending on what your change that you want to see is, right? Not yelling at somebody in traffic is a small win, and you should be proud. You're going on your way to be a more peaceful person, and that's what's your goal. So it's amazing because we should recognize a lot more of that. That's what we should be the loudest about. This world needs more loudness about positivity, more loudness about celebration. There's so much good happening in the world, and our brains, that amygdala, 10 times more processing power for negativity, which means if we see one negative image, it takes 10 positive images to make the same impact in our brain as that one negative one did, which means for every negative thing we hear in our day or see, we need that much more positive stimuli. Are we really getting that much positive stimuli? No, we're not. Which is why we need to be creating it for ourselves, don't we? That's why it's so it matters. So when I celebrate people on the smallest thing, sometimes it sounds sarcastic, like, wow, good job. But I do mean it. Good job. You needed to do that. Good job. Do more of that. Good job. Okay? Don't downplay it. That's the worst thing you do. That's minimizing also. Like, people are like, oh, no big deal. It was a big deal. At one point, you could barely get out of bed. Now you get out of bed every day and you dance a little bit and you go and see people. Like, it is a big deal. Oh, I dropped 5 pounds. It's not that big. It is a big deal for somebody who's struggled with their weight their whole life and has felt terrible. And now you're finally, you've got your health under control and you're finally eating a little bit better, but you feel better. And now your weight is shifting. That is a big deal, even if it's 5 pounds. How much had to recombobble for that 5 pounds to go, right? Anyways, use compassionate self-language is our last step, and that's already, you've noticed it. Whenever I'm speaking to myself, there is this understanding and kindness, right? There is an innocence to us all, and it's very important to see it in yourself. When you make a mistake, speaking to yourself with kindness and compassion, and like being very understanding. So when you are about to do something like this, right, public speaking, the best thing is, like, I can understand why you'd be nervous about that. Totally understandable. That is a normal thing. Actually, it'd be weird if you weren't nervous because you don't like it, right? So I think that it's okay for you to feel nervous, but guess what? I know you're prepared. I know that you know what to talk about. And I know that the right people are going to hear it and they're going to connect with what you have to say. So even though you're nervous, I'm excited to see what you're going to do with this, all right? And just those statements alone, acknowledging it and then supporting yourself, has been proven to calm anxiety and reinforce confidence. So just those few things, it really doesn't take that much for you to actually help yourself. It does take a little bit of time, obviously, to really build up your self-confidence. But honestly, in the long run, it really doesn't. These things can start working for you right away. And the most powerful part about them is that it's just a reminding you of who you are and who you aren't. And then literally being like, oh man, now that I know that, I can literally do whatever I want. Because what you're empowering yourself to do is the stuff you want to do. And what you're saying no to is the stuff you actually don't want to. And now realize was always bogus in the first place, you know? A lot of us were taught to care about stuff that never even mattered. And then now, later on in life, we're like, wow, wish I'd known that long ago. I wouldn't have worried so hard, right? Well, this is how you stop worrying and start caring about what matters. So, yeah. Anyways. Everybody, I think, has the ability to grow these things. It's really important for us to work on them because I do think it would change society if we had this. More people would stand up for stuff that they don't believe in. Stand up against, like, stuff they don't believe in. You know what I mean? Rather than just following along. So your key takeaways: self-confidence is a skill. We can always build it. With that growth mindset, you are never at a point of your fully full form. You can always continue to adapt that, right? Number 2, small wins matter. No matter what we do, everything is always helping us even more. So believe in yourself that all this stuff getting you somewhere, it's building you up for a reason, and to celebrate that, because you know what? It takes a lot to be doing the work versus not, okay? Growth mindset equals resilience. The more that you realize, the more things that happen is only making you stronger, the more you're excited for stuff to happen because you're just getting smarter and stronger. Okay, your self-image shapes your confidence. If you don't know who you are, then you're not going to have any confidence, right? Because you actually don't know what to believe in yourself about. So the more that you know who you are, the more that's going to help you bolster your own confidence and empower yourself to go forward. And self-compassion is key, because really we're going to always face setbacks, all right? But the most self-confident people, they don't care. They're like, give me a setback. I'm actually really great at handling those. Test me. You know, and that's what it comes to. At some point, you start to believe in yourself so much that you do not mind a challenge, because it is yet another opportunity for you to show yourself and anybody else who's watching, that's right, I know how to do this. I can do this. I'm not even worried about this. Sit back and watch, okay? So it's important that as we move forward, know that confidence isn't about being perfect. It's about just trusting in yourself and knowing that you got this regardless. Even if you're going to fumble, even if you're going to have mishaps through it, you're still going to rise up whenever it gets to that point, even if it takes a while, okay? But yeah, be very kind to yourself. This is really hard work. I do know most people never do this work for a reason, but why this is so important is because of the fact that without it, we do fall for anything. And it's time for us to stop falling for anything and start standing up for what is actually meant to be stood up for. And at this point, I do believe it is true humanity, true life on this planet. And that is honestly with the good. Even there's evil in that. We all have a little bit of evil inside of us, but ultimately I do believe the good side needs to come out. And part of the good side is us recognizing and owning that's who we are, right? And saying, no, I'm not evil. I don't choose to have an evil world either. And I'm going to empower myself to live in the heaven on earth that I know that we can create when we all start realizing that we're a bunch of angels instead of demons here, okay? Not saying there ain't no demons here. I'm just saying that there are way more angels and way more of us that can make this heaven. The more that we all start knowing that's who we are, perceiving ourselves in our world that way. And part of that starts by saying no to what isn't that. And that comes with self-confidence, to know that they're wrong in telling you about what they've told you, who you are and how you have to be and how this has to all be. They're wrong. And we get to decide what that looks like now, okay? And part of that starts with who you are and what you look like and what you need to look like, and not need to look like, but who you truly are and what kind of world that would support that looks like, okay? Much love. Good luck out there. I know you're doing all the hard work, but you got this.